Good day, everyone. Today, I am going to talk to you about one of the most fascinating and complex organs in the human body, the brain. The brain is the control center of our body, responsible for all our thoughts, feelings, actions, and bodily functions. It is a complex network of cells, chemicals, and electrical impulses that work together in harmony to keep us alive and functioning. So, what is the brain, and how does it work? Let's dive in and find out. Firstly, what is the brain? The brain is a soft, spongy mass of tissue that weighs around 3 pounds and is located inside the skull. It is divided into several parts, including the cerebrum, cerebellum, and brainstem, each with its specific function. The cerebrum is the largest part of the brain and is responsible for controlling our thoughts, emotions, and movements. The cerebellum is located underneath the cerebrum and is responsible for coordinating our movements and balance. The brainstem connects the brain to the spinal cord and is responsible for regulating our vital functions, such as breathing and heartbeat. So, how does the brain work? The brain is made up of billions of cells called neurons that communicate with each other through electrical and chemical signals. These signals allow us to think, feel, and move. Neurons are organized into circuits, each with its specific function. For example, the visual cortex in the back of the brain processes visual information, while the motor cortex in the front of the brain controls our movements. Neurons communicate with each other through a process called synapse. When a neuron is activated, it releases chemicals called neurotransmitters that bind to receptors on the receiving neuron, causing it to either fire or not. This process is repeated billions of times per second, allowing for complex thoughts, emotions, and actions to occur. The brain is also capable of changing and adapting, a process called neuroplasticity. This means that the connections between neurons can be strengthened or weakened depending on our experiences and activities. For example, if you learn a new skill, such as playing the guitar, the connections between neurons in the parts of the brain responsible for controlling your fingers will become stronger. The brain is also responsible for producing and regulating various hormones that affect our mood, emotions, and bodily functions. For example, the hormone dopamine is responsible for feelings of pleasure and reward, while the hormone cortisol is responsible for the stress response. As we have discussed, the brain is made up of billions of neurons that communicate with each other through electrical and chemical signals. So, let's dive deeper into how these neurons work and connect to each other. Neurons are the basic building blocks of the nervous system. They are specialized cells that are designed to transmit information throughout the body. Neurons are made up of 3 main parts: the cell body, dendrites, and axons. The cell body contains the nucleus and other organelles responsible for the neuron's functions. Dendrites are branches that extend from the cell body and receive signals from other neurons. Axons are long, thin extensions that transmit signals to other neurons or muscles. The communication between neurons occurs at a specialized junction called a synapse. When a neuron is activated, it releases chemicals called neurotransmitters that bind to receptors on the receiving neuron, causing it to either fire or not. The strength of the signal is determined by the number and type of neurotransmitters released, as well as the sensitivity of the receptors. Neurons are organized into circuits, each with its specific function. These circuits work together to perform complex tasks such as perception, movement, and memory. For example, the visual cortex in the back of the brain processes visual information, while the motor cortex in the front of the brain controls our movements. The connections between neurons are not random but are organized into specific patterns called neural networks. These networks are responsible for specific functions, such as language, emotion, and memory. The most famous neural network is the default mode network, which is responsible for our sense of self and introspection. The study of neural networks is crucial for understanding how the brain works and for developing treatments for neurological disorders. For example, researchers have found that changes in the default mode network are associated with depression and Alzheimer's disease. By understanding how this network works, researchers can develop new treatments that target specific neural circuits. Neurotransmitters are chemicals that are released by neurons to transmit signals to other neurons, muscles, or glands. They are essential for communication within the nervous system and for coordinating complex behaviors such as movement, perception, and emotion. There are dozens of different neurotransmitters in the brain, each with their unique functions. One of the most well-known neurotransmitters is dopamine, which is involved in reward, motivation, and pleasure. It is responsible for the rush of excitement that we feel when we accomplish a goal or receive a positive outcome. Other neurotransmitters, such as serotonin, are involved in regulating mood and sleep, while acetylcholine is essential for learning and memory. The process of neural communication involves the release of neurotransmitters from the presynaptic neuron, their diffusion across the synaptic cleft, and their binding to receptors on the postsynaptic neuron. Once the neurotransmitter binds to the receptor, it triggers a series of biochemical events that either excite or inhibit the postsynaptic neuron, depending on the type of neurotransmitter and the receptor. Neurotransmitters can be excitatory or inhibitory, meaning that they either increase or decrease the likelihood that the postsynaptic neuron will fire an action potential. For example, glutamate is an excitatory neurotransmitter, while GABA is an inhibitory neurotransmitter. The balance between excitatory and inhibitory neurotransmitters is essential for maintaining proper neural function. Disruptions in neurotransmitter levels or signaling can lead to a variety of neurological and psychiatric disorders. For example, Parkinson's disease is caused by the degeneration of dopamine-producing neurons in the brain, while depression is associated with decreased levels of serotonin. Researchers are continually studying the role of neurotransmitters in various disorders to develop new treatments and therapies. Another crucial aspect of neural communication is the speed and efficiency of signal transmission. Neurons use several strategies to increase the speed of signal transmission, such as myelination and saltatory conduction. Myelination is the process of wrapping axons in a fatty insulating material called myelin, which increases the speed of signal transmission by reducing signal loss and resistance. Saltatory conduction is a process where the action potential jumps from one node of Ranvier to the next, allowing for faster transmission along myelinated axons. The cerebral cortex, the outermost layer of the brain, is divided into four main lobes: the frontal lobe, the parietal lobe, the temporal lobe, and the occipital lobe. Each lobe is associated with specific functions and processes information from different sensory modalities. The frontal lobe is located at the front of the brain and is responsible for executive functions, such as planning, decision-making, and impulse control. It also plays a role in motor planning and movement. The parietal lobe, located at the top and back of the brain, is responsible for processing sensory information from the body, such as touch, pain, and temperature. It also plays a role in spatial processing and awareness. The temporal lobe, located on the sides of the brain, is responsible for auditory processing, language comprehension, and memory formation. The occipital lobe, located at the back of the brain, is responsible for visual processing and perception. Other regions of the brain are also important for various functions. The cerebellum, located at the back of the brain, is involved in motor coordination, balance, and posture. The brainstem, located at the base of the brain, controls many basic functions such as breathing, heart rate, and blood pressure. The limbic system, located deep within the brain, is involved in emotion, motivation, and memory. It includes several structures such as the amygdala, hippocampus, and hypothalamus. The amygdala is involved in processing emotional information and is important for fear conditioning and the regulation of emotional responses. The hippocampus is involved in memory formation and retrieval, and damage to this region can result in amnesia. The hypothalamus is involved in regulating physiological processes such as hunger, thirst, and body temperature, as well as the stress response and sexual behavior. In addition to these main regions, the brain also contains specialized areas such as Broca's and Wernicke's areas, which are involved in language production and comprehension, respectively. The prefrontal cortex, located in the frontal lobe, is involved in higher-level cognitive processes such as working memory, attention, and problem-solving. Memory and learning are complex processes that involve different regions and mechanisms within the brain. Memory can be divided into three main types: sensory memory, short-term memory, and long-term memory. Sensory memory refers to the brief retention of sensory information, such as visual or auditory stimuli, that occurs immediately after the stimuli are presented. This type of memory has a large capacity, but the information is quickly lost if it is not attended to or processed further. Short-term memory, also known as working memory, refers to the temporary retention and manipulation of information that is necessary for ongoing cognitive tasks. This type of memory has a limited capacity, typically around 7 plus or minus 2 items, and the information is quickly lost if it is not rehearsed or encoded into long-term memory. Long-term memory refers to the relatively permanent storage and retrieval of information over time. It can be further divided into explicit or declarative memory, which involves conscious recall of facts and events, and implicit or non-declarative memory, which involves unconscious learning of skills and habits. Memory formation involves a process called encoding, in which information is transformed into a neural code that can be stored and retrieved later. Different types of encoding, such as visual, auditory, and semantic encoding, involve different regions and mechanisms within the brain. Sleep is a natural and essential process for the human body. It plays a crucial role in maintaining physical health, cognitive function, and emotional well-being. The average adult requires about 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night, although individual needs may vary. The sleep cycle is characterized by two distinct stages: rapid eye movement, REM, sleep, and non-REM, NREM, sleep. NREM sleep is further divided into three stages, with the first two being relatively light stages and the third stage being the deepest and most restorative stage. During REM sleep, the brain is highly active, and the eyes move rapidly back and forth. This stage is associated with vivid and often bizarre dreaming. REM sleep is also important for memory consolidation and emotional regulation. Sleep is regulated by a complex network of brain regions and neurotransmitters, including the hypothalamus, the brainstem, and the pineal gland. The sleep-wake cycle is influenced by various internal and external factors, such as the circadian rhythm, which is a biological clock that regulates the timing of sleep and wakefulness. Disruptions to the sleep cycle can have negative effects on physical and mental health. Sleep disorders, such as insomnia, sleep apnea, and restless leg syndrome, can interfere with the quality and duration of sleep. Chronic sleep deprivation can lead to a range of health problems, including obesity, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and depression. Dreaming is another important aspect of the sleep cycle. Dreams are thought to be the brain's way of processing and consolidating information from the previous day, as well as working through emotional experiences and unresolved issues. Dreams can be influenced by various factors, such as mood, stress, and external stimuli. The content of dreams can be highly varied and often reflects personal experiences and concerns. Dreams can be vivid, emotionally intense, and sometimes bizarre or surreal. Some theories suggest that dreams may serve a functional purpose, such as problem-solving or emotional regulation. Mind-reading technology and brain implants are among the most exciting and controversial areas of neuroscience research. These technologies aim to decode the electrical signals generated by the brain and use them to control computers, prosthetic limbs, and other devices. One of the key challenges in this field is developing high-resolution brain-machine interfaces that can accurately interpret and translate the complex signals generated by the brain. Advances in machine learning and signal processing algorithms have helped to improve the accuracy and speed of these systems, but significant technical and ethical challenges remain. Another exciting area of neuroscience research is the intersection between artificial intelligence and robotics. Researchers are developing increasingly sophisticated robots that can perform complex tasks, such as navigating environments and interacting with humans. These robots are often inspired by biological systems, such as insects or birds, and incorporate principles from machine learning and other areas of computer science. There are a variety of techniques and interventions that can help promote neuroplasticity, including cognitive training, physical exercise, and certain medications. These interventions have shown promise in improving cognitive function and reducing the risk of cognitive decline in aging populations. In conclusion, we have explored various fascinating aspects of the brain and its functions in this video. We learned about the different types of neurons and how they communicate with each other through neurotransmitters. We also looked at the different regions of the brain and their functions, including memory and learning, sleep and dreaming, and emotions and behavior. We also delved into some of the exciting and cutting-edge areas of neuroscience research, such as mind-reading technology and brain implants, artificial intelligence and robotics, and neuroplasticity and brain development. We discussed some of the challenges and opportunities in these fields, as well as the potential implications for human health and well-being. I hope you found this video informative and enjoyable. If you did, please consider subscribing to our channel and leaving a like and comment. Your feedback helps us create more content that you find interesting and useful. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in our next video.